store our application data, we need one database table. I'm taking the table name as contact details. To map with the database table, we will create one entity class. To map with DB table, we'll create entity class and we'll map with the database table. We will create entity class and we'll map with DB table. Now I'm going to take that name as contact.java. Okay, what is the class that I'm going to create here? I'm going to create a class with the name called contact.java. Okay, in this contact.java class, what are the properties I need? I need contact ID and I need contact name, contact email, contact number, contact ID, contact name, contact email, contact number, create date, when that contact is created, update date, and active switch. Whether the contact is whether the contact is an active contact or whether it is a delete contact. Contact is an active contact or deleted contact, I'm going to take a active switch column. So I'm going to create one entity class with these variables: contact ID, contact name, email, phone number, created date, updated date. Created date, updated date will help me to understand when that record is created, when that record is updated. Active switch column will tell me whether that record is deleted or not deleted. I'm going for soft delete concept. All right. Then next after, we will create one repository. Interface to perform DB operations. We are going to create one repository interface to perform DB operations. So what I'm going to create here, I will create contact repository extends JPA repository. I'm going to create a contact repository which is going to extend JPA repository to perform the operations. Contact repository I'm creating which is going to extend the properties from JPA repository. Are you guys able to follow this? Contact repository is available. It is going to extend the properties from JPA repository. We will create one service interface with implementation. We'll create one service interface with the implementation. What is the name that I'm going to take for the service interface? I'm going to take it as contact service.java. For this we are going to have contact service impl.java. Contact service impl.java. Contact service.java and contact service impl.java, like that we are having service. Guys, most of the people will get confused here only. To write the methods in the service interface. Okay. Now, what are the methods we need to write? In the service interface? That is very, very, very important. That comes based on the analysis only. Blindly, you cannot butify what methods we need to write in the service. You first understand the requirement. Now see here, the very first thing is user will submit the form. We will get the form data. We need to store the form data in the database. After storing the form data, we need to display a success message or failure message. After storing the data, we need to display a success message or failure message. For that, what I will do? Public boolean save data, save contact, save contact, I'm going to take contact object as a parameter. I'm going to take the contact object as a parameter. Why I have taken Boolean data type? Why I have taken a contact object as a parameter? Whenever user submit the form data will come in the form of object. So that's why I'm taking that object as a method parameter. So this is a service layer method. This service layer method will talk to repository method. The repository is going to save the record and it is going to return true or false. True or false means what? If true means I will display success message. If false means I will display failure message. Guys, in the trainings, most of the people will not have the confidence on the programming because they don't do this kind of analysis to write the methods. If you can do this kind of analysis to write the methods, then programming is easy. Developing the applications is easy if you can do this kind of analysis before the development. Now see here, in today's session, am I doing the development or am I doing the analysis? Am I doing any coding or am I doing just analysis? What I need to do? I'm just doing the analysis. I'm identifying what methods I need. How I identified that I need a method with a Boolean return type with object parameter? Can you butify this? For every project, can you use the same syntax for the methods? No. It is going to change from requirement to requirement. It is going to change from requirement to requirement. So based on our current requirement, I am taking this method. Now next one. View all contacts. There is a concept called view all contacts. So what is the meaning of view all contacts? When user click on this method, we need to retrieve all the contacts available in the table and we need to display in the whenever user click on this hyperlink, we need to retrieve all the contacts which are available in the database table and display in the front end table. For that, what method I need? All the contacts I have to retrieve. So to display more than one contact, we will use a collection. Public list of contact. Then I will do get contacts. Get all contacts. Now, am I passing any parameter for the method? In the first method, I am taking a parameter. In the second method, I am not taking the parameter. That is the analysis. In the first method, am I passing parameter or not? Yes. First method purpose is to store the data. User is giving the data in the web page and the user is clicking on the submit button. So we need to capture that data and we need to store the data into the table. We need to capture the data and we need to store the data into the table. So that's why I am taking object as a parameter. After storing the data, we have to display success message or failure message. How I will understand that whether the record saved successfully or record not saved successfully? That's why I am taking a Boolean. True or false. You got now? Next one. View all contacts hyperlink is available. What is the purpose of view all contacts hyperlink? Guys, can anyone tell me? What is the purpose of view all contacts hyperlink? View all contacts is used to retrieve all the contacts available in the database table. It is used to retrieve all the contacts available in the table and display. So how to represent multiple objects? How to represent multiple objects? To represent how to represent multiple objects? To represent multiple objects, we are using a list. Are we passing any data from UI? When I'm clicking on a hyperlink? When I click on a hyperlink, are we passing any data from UI to controller? We are not passing anything. That's why I'm not taking any parameter for the method. Next one. Once contact saved, we can click on hyperlink to display all the contacts. Here, user can click on edit icon. What is the meaning of edit? That particular record we are going to edit. How to understand this particular user record is clicking edit based on the user ID. When user click on this edit hyperlink, that particular user record should be displayed in the editable mode. When we click on edit, that particular record should be displayed in the editable mode. For that, what I will do? So, One record we are clicking for edit based on the ID. That record should come in the editable mode. Public contact, get contact by ID. Get contact by ID is the method I am taking. Integer contact ID. Now see this method signature. Why I am taking integer as a parameter for the method? Why I am taking integer as a parameter for the method? Based on the ID, I have to retrieve the record. User is clicking on edit. User is clicking on the edit for particular record. How to differentiate whether user clicking on the edit for John record or Smith record? How to differentiate that user is clicking on the edit for John record or Smith record or Charles record based on the ID. For edit link, ID will be appended. Now based on this ID, I am going to fetch the record I will display in the table. For that, I am going to take the object as a return type, ID as a parameter. Contact ID I am taking as a parameter, contact object I am taking as a return type. Are you clear with my point? Why I am taking integer parameter object return type? Similarly, when user click on delete, then what should we do? When user click on the delete, what should we do? Based on the ID only we have to delete. Based on the ID only we have to delete. After the delete is successful, then what should we do? After the delete is successful, then what should we do? We have to display the latest records and we have to display the success message. We have to display the latest records and we have to display the success message. You understood my point? You understood my point? Display the latest records and success message. Right. Now, public boolean delete contact. Public boolean delete contact. On what basis we are going to delete that contact? Based on contact ID, I'm going to delete this contact. Right. Pop-up we don't deal with in the service layer. Pop-up is a front-end part. I'm designing the back-end part now. Pop-up is a front-end part. When we click on the delete, pop-up should come to confirm. That is a front-end requirement. Now this is a service layer requirement. This is a service layer requirement. Guys, are you clear with my point? What are the methods I need to write in my service layer? Save contact. Contact object I am taking as a parameter and boolean I am taking as a return type. Get all contacts, no parameter, but return type is a list of contacts. Get contact by ID, I am passing contact ID as a parameter and I am returning contact object. Public boolean delete contact, which is used to delete the record and display success message, and it is going to load the latest record and we are going to take the latest record. Delete contact or delete contact by ID, anything is fine. Delete contact or delete contact by ID. Boolean will represent whether record is deleted or not, true or false. If record is deleted, I will display success message. Guys, all of you able to identify the methods in the same way? All of you able to identify the methods in the same way? Is there any mistake? Is there any mistake that you have done in the analysis part? So if you do this analysis, then coding will become easy. If you do this analysis, then coding will become easy. After service layer methods, can be different from person to person. Some people may take a string as a return type. Some people may take boolean as a return type. Some people may take int as a return type. It depends upon how you are going to write the code. Some people can take string as a return type. Some people already taken string as a return type, no problem. Some people are taking boolean as a return type. Take no issue. No issue. Anuradha, yes, you can use string also as a return type. Based on that, you will write your logic. I'm taking boolean as a return type. Based on that, I will write my logic. Guys, is my methods satisfying all the requirements? Is the 4 methods satisfying all the requirements? User can click on submit button. When user click on submit button, this method is responsible to take the data in the form of object, store into the database table, and return a boolean value. When user click on view all contacts, this method is responsible to retrieve all the records from the table and give to the controller, REST controller. To represent list of contacts, I'm taking a collection object. Then user may click on edit icon. When user click on edit icon, based on that particular ID, I'm retrieving the object and I'm returning that object. Okay. For updating, we are not going to take a separate method for the update, guys. Save method only we can use for the update. Because we don't have a separate method in the JPA for updation. Save method is the abstract method. This method can be used for both insertion as well as updation. So for updating the record, I will use the same method. Okay. Then when user click on the delete icon, based on that particular ID, I'm going to delete the record. Guys, here I am going to perform soft delete. That means record will be available in the table, but active switch will become N. By default, active switch is Y. Once the record is deleted, active switch will become N. Delete we can do in the 2 ways. One is the hard delete, another one is soft delete. Hard delete means deleting the record permanently from the database. Hard delete means deleting the record permanently from the database. Soft delete means making the record as inactive. Okay. Note. We are implementing soft delete functionality. When user delete the record, that record will become inactive. When user delete the record, that record will become inactive. That is called soft delete. Hard delete means deleting the record permanently from the database table. Hard delete means deleting record permanently from the database. Hard delete means deleting record permanently from the database. Soft delete means making the record as inactive. In our scenario, I am going for soft delete functionality. Okay. All right. Next one. This is entity and this is repository and this is service. The next one, REST controller. What is the next one? REST controller. We'll create a REST controller with methods to handle request and response. We will create REST controller to handle request and response. We'll create REST controller to handle request and response. Now, get method, post method, put method, delete method. Get, post, put, delete. Okay. Get method to get data from server. Post method to send data to server, put method to update record at server, to delete record at server. We are going to create this REST controller. We are going to create this REST controller to do all these things. Are you guys comfortable with my point now? What we are going to do? Are you guys comfortable with my point? What we are going to do now? REST controller we are creating. In the REST controller, what will be available? HTTP binding request methods will be available. Get method will be available. Post method will be available. Put method will be available. Delete method will be available. Get method is used to get the data from the server. Put method is used to update the record at the server. Post method to send the data to the server. Delete method to delete the record at the server. This is our REST controller. We need one entity class which is going to map with the database table. We need to have one entity class which is going to map with the database table. And we have a repository interface. It is going to extend the properties from JPA repository to perform CRUD operations. And we have a service class which contains the business logic. We have a service class which contains the business logic. In our project, we are implementing soft delete. That means when user click on the delete, that record will not be deleted from the database permanently. That record will be there in the database, but that record will become inactive record. What is the difference between soft delete and hard delete? Hard delete means deleting the record permanently from the database. Deleting the record permanently from the database is called as hard delete. Making the record inactive is called as soft delete. Then we have to create one REST controller. In that REST controller, we will write the methods to handle request and response. Okay. Swagger. I will add the Swagger. Swagger is used to generate documentation for our REST API. Swagger is used to generate the documentation for our REST API. Swagger UI will provide user interface. Swagger UI will provide user interface to test our REST API. You can test the REST API by using a Postman, and we can test the REST API by using Swagger UI also. Anyone? I will tell you Swagger also, how to add the Swagger and Swagger UI for our REST API to test it. Once we have done this, can I say our backend development is completed? Once we have done so far, whatever we analyzed with this, can we complete our backend implementation and can we test it? With this, can we do our backend implementation and can we test it? After the backend, then what next? After the backend, what next? This backend API I will deploy in the cloud platform. Then we will develop the UI for that using Angular. Then one project will be completed. One mini project will be completed. Guys, now read about my analysis. So, did I write single line of code as of now? Did I write single line of code? Did I open my Eclipse? Yes, tell me. Did I open my Eclipse to develop this project? What I have done? What I have done? Come on. I have done analysis. So with this analysis, can I say my plan is ready to start the development? With this analysis, can I say my plan is ready to do the development? Now, is it easy or not? Most of the people will not do this analysis for the development. Directly they will start the coding. Then they feel coding is difficult. That is the problem. Most of the people Whenever there is a requirement, they will directly open the Eclipse and they will try to write the code. They will get some doubts and they will stop in the middle. Before going to start any development task, first you have to prepare the planning. Once you prepare the plan, based on that plan you can do the execution. Based on the planning you can do the execution. Are you clear with my point? Right. Now here, create a project with below dependencies. Create a project with below dependencies. What are the dependencies we need? I need web starter. I need dev tools. I need project Lombok. I need H2 dependency. I need H2 dependency and I need starter data JPA. Data JPA starter. I need a data JPA starter and I need Swagger and Swagger UI. I need a Swagger and Swagger UI. Yeah, for every project you have to do this analysis. Then you can complete the task easily. Even in the real time also, when I am going to do the development, first I will prepare a plan like this, then I will execute that plan. Alright. Create a project with below dependencies. What are the dependencies? Web starter, dev tools, Lombok, H2, data JPA starter, Swagger and Swagger UI. Do we need any other dependencies? Do we need any other dependencies? Guys, come on. We don't need any other dependency. All these things we can select at the time of project creation, but this dependency we have to take from outside. Guys, if you don't want to use the H2, you can use any other database also. I don't have any problem. You can use any other database also. I am using H2 because it is a new topic for us. Chalo. Can I create a project now? File, new, other, Spring Starter project. I'm creating this project name as 14th contact app. What is this? Contact app I am taking. Okay. Click on next. Yeah. Dependencies we have to select. So let me add Spring Web Starter. Then let me go for JPA starter, Web Starter and JPA starter, H2 database, Lombok, JPA, H2 web, dev tools. To restart our server, go to dev tools. Can you see Swagger is available here? Can you see Swagger available here? Swagger is not available here. So then 3 plus 2, 5. So total actually we need 6. I have added 5 dependencies. Dev tools, Lombok, JPA, H2, web I have added. Swagger I will add from outside. Swagger I am going to add from outside. Okay. Why I am using Lombok? Anuradha, what is this question, madam? Lombok is used to generate setters, getters. Lombok is used to generate the setters and getters. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to copy Swagger dependencies from outside, guys. I will add those Swagger dependencies in my project. Swagger and Swagger UI, two dependencies I have to add in my project. Two dependencies I have to add in my project. Now, Swagger dependency we have to copy from outside. Swagger dependency we can't select in IDE. Hence, we have to add it manually. Swagger dependency we can't select in IDE, so we have to add it manually. I'm giving the Swagger dependency here for you guys. All these dependencies you can select at the time of a project creation. Whenever you are creating the project, you can select all these dependencies. Whenever you are creating a project, you can select all these dependencies. Right. Swagger dependency we can't select in IDE, hence we have to add it manually. So I'm giving the dependency for you to add it manually. You just copy this dependency and add it in your form.xml. Add it in your form.xml. Okay, now. Yeah. In the company, those Swagger also will come from remote repository. Okay. In the company, that Swagger will come from remote repository. Here I am using from central repository. It is going to download. It is my personal computer. When I add this dependency, it will be downloaded from the central. It will be added to my local repository. Okay. With this, we are good. With this, we are good. Project is created and a dependency is also added. Then what is the next step? Configure data source properties. Configure data source properties in application.properties file. Configure data source properties in the application.properties file. Alright. How we will configure the data source properties? How we will configure the data source properties, guys? We need to configure H2 database properties. H2 database we are using as an embedded database. We need to configure H2 database properties in our properties file. We need to configure H2 database properties. See here, data source URL, username, password. You can keep password also as like this. Driver class name as org.h2.driver. Server.port is equal to 9090. 9090. Like this, I am configuring data source properties in my application.properties file. Guys, I'm giving the step-by-step everything. Swagger dependencies we have to add manually. The remaining dependencies you can select. Create Spring Boot project, Spring Starter project with below dependencies. Swagger dependency we have to add manually. These are the data source properties we are going to configure to connect with the H2 database. These are the data source properties we are going to configure to connect with the H2 database. Data source URL, data source username, data source password, data source driver class. URL of the H2 database, jdbc colon h2 colon mem colon testdb. Username is SA. Password is also SA. Driver class name I am using as org.h2.driver. Right. Now, with this our setup is ready. Project is ready. Dependencies are ready. Configuration is also ready. Next. We need to create one entity class. New class. I'm going to create that class in a package called entity. in.ashokit.entity. The class name I'm taking as a contact. Class name I'm taking as a contact. Class name I'm taking as contact. In this class, what are the properties we are going to take? These are the properties. Contact ID, private integer contact ID, and contact name, private string contact name. contact email, private string contact email, and the next one, private long contact number. This one I'm going to take a private local date, create a date. When that record got created, I'm going to take this private local date as created date. When that record is created, I'm going to take that local date. Here, private local date update date, local date update date, private string active switch, private string active switch. These are the variables I'm taking in the entity. How to represent this class as a entity class? By using entity annotation. What is the annotation we are going to use? Entity. How to map this class with a table? By using table annotation, we can map it. Table name is equal to contact underscore details. Contact underscore details. Now, I want to map this with the primary key. So I will use @ID. I want it to generate the value for the primary key. Generated value. I want to map this with a particular column name. I want to map this with a particular column name. Name is equal to contact underscore ID. Name is equal to contact underscore ID. Next, go for contact name. Go for contact email. Then contact number. Then created data. Then updated data. Then active switch. Like this, I'm going to map these variables with the columns in the database table. I'm going to map these variables with the column names in the database table. Name, email, and number. This is create date, and this is update date. Update date. This is active switch. This is active switch. Can you look at this, guys? Can you look at this? How I am mapping this with the variables, columns? To represent this class as an entity class, I am using entity annotation. To represent this class as a entity class, I am using entity annotation. I'm using entity annotation. Here, I am mapping this entity class with the database table by using table annotation. ID, which will represent that this property is binded to primary key. Generated value, it is used to generate the value for the primary key column. Column to map our variable with the column name. Same thing. Dates. Guys, these dates we don't want to set. JPA will set these dates by using timestamping. Creational timestamp. For this one, I am going to use update timestamp. For this, I am going to use update timestamp because from the UI, are we getting the data for those columns? In the UI, do you have the fields to get the data for those created date and updated date? No. Created date and updated date should be generated. So that's why I am writing creation timestamp, update timestamp. Whenever the record is inserted, created date will be populated because this annotation is available. Whenever the record is updated, updated date will be populated in that updated date column. That is called timestamping. Now, here you can say for the created date, we will specify updatable is equal to false. That means when the record is updated, this column value should not be updated. When the record is getting updated, this column value should not be updated. Insertable is equal to false. When the record is inserting, this column value should not be populated. When the record is updating, created date column should not be considered. When the record is inserting, updatable column should not be considered. Insertable is equal to false, updatable is equal to false. You understand what is the meaning of that now? You understand what is the meaning? I'm repeating once again. Created date and updated date columns are available. When the record is inserted, created date column value should be populated by the JPA. For that I am using creation timestamp. When the record is updated, updated date value should be populated into this column. For that I am using update timestamp. Then why updatable is equal to false, insertable is equal to false? When the record is updating, created date should not be modified. Created date means it is fixed value. It will represent when the record got created. When the record is updating, insertable is equal to false. When the record is inserting, this updated date value should not be inserted. Updatable should insert when the record is updated. That's the reason. Created date should be done only once, right? Active switch. Active switch. What is the default value that we want to give? We don't have any default value, huh? No, there is no default concept available. We will see that. How to set that value? By default, when the record is inserted, it should have active switch as Y. Right? Let me take it as Y. Whenever we insert the record, by default, active switch should be Y. Or we can set it programmatically also, no problem. When the record is deleted, then active switch will become N. That is called soft delete functionality. Guys, are you clear with entity class now? Are you clear with my entity class now? Yeah. Once entity class is ready, then what is the next step? Repository we have to create. For this entity, we need to generate the setters getters. For that, we need to add Lombok annotation. That is @data. Data. Lombok annotation I am using. Whenever I use @data, no args constructor will come by default. I no need to add it separately. No args constructor will come when you go for @data. Okay, fine. Next one, let us create one repository interface. Create the repository interface. Keep this in a separate package, repository. So how I am going to do? I will specify it as contact repository. Contact repository extends what? Contact repository extends what? JPA repository. Entity class is a contact and primary key type is a integer. Primary key type is a integer. Guys, tell me, do I need to use @repository or is it optional? Do I need to use @repository or is it optional? Giving @repository is optional. By default, this will be scanned, no problem. Now, what is the next step? I need to create one service interface. I need to create what? Service interface, which is called contact service. Already I have identified the methods. Can I write these methods now? Can I write these methods now? Java.util list and contact. Our service layer methods also ready. Public boolean save contact. I'm passing the contact object as a parameter. It is returning a boolean value. Get all contacts method available, which is returning list of contacts. Get contact by ID. Integer is a parameter and object is the return type. Public boolean delete contact by ID. Contact ID is a parameter. Boolean is the return type. Based on our requirement, we have analyzed and we are using these methods in the service. Then what is the next step? After the service is created? IMPL should be created. What is the next step? IMPL should be created. We have to implement these methods. It's easy. If you focus, if you concentrate, it is easy. Inside the service package only, I'm creating contact service IMPL. Which interface I am going to implement? Contact service interface I am going to implement. Contact service interface I am going to implement. Contact service IMPL. Guys, now, how to represent this class as a service class? What is the annotation we need to use? Can I use @service annotation? Can I use @service annotation? Yes, I'm using @service. Now what I need to do? Do I need to inject the dependency or not? How can I inject the dependency? Private contact repository contact repo. Can I do that by using auto wiring now? Can I do that by using auto wiring? Guys, is it complete coding or not? So from now onwards, can you expect any theory? Can you expect any theory from now onwards? Movie started. Movie started. Next 1 month, literally everyday coding. Next 1 month, literally everyday coding. I am doing the code. Are you going to learn anything? If I do the code like this, will you learn anything, guys? If I do the coding, will you learn anything? Then what is important? What is important? Explain theory and do the code. What theory I have to explain? You have to do the coding on your own. There is no theory to explain. It's a project. We have to implement the code. Amarendra, there is nothing to explain you theoretically. It is a requirement. We have to do the coding. I am doing the live coding. Every line of code I am writing in front of you. After the class completed, you have to do that code on your own. Then only you will become a programmer. You have to do this code after the class is completed. Every assignment I am going to check. Every assignment I am going to check. You understand my point? Every assignment I am going to check. Every assignment I am going to check. I think this guy is facing some problem. Yeah, I will talk to that guy. Fine. Now, here, save contact method is available. So what we need to do? What we need to do? We just need to call contact repo dot save of contact object. Contact repo dot save of contact object. What it is going to give us? Save object. Save object. If save dot get contact ID. If save dot get contact ID not equal to null. If save dot get contact ID not equal to null, return true. Else return false value. I am having save contact method. In this method I want to call my service layer methods. Service layer method should call the repository method. Contact repository dot save of this contact, which is going to give the contact object. Whenever you call save dot get contact ID not equal to null, if the contact ID populated in the object, that means the record is inserted. I am returning true. Otherwise, return false. Record will not be inserted. I mean, it is going to return false. That means failure. True means success. False means failure. Next one. Get all contacts. So what we need to do here? Simply contact repo dot find all. Contact repo dot find all. Return contact repo dot find all. It is just going to retrieve all the records available in the table. It is just going to retrieve all the records available in the table. Are you clear with my point? It is going to retrieve all the records available in the table. Now, get contact by ID. Already we have a parameter. Contact ID. If you have the primary key, do you know how to get the record from the primary based on the primary key? How to get the record based on the primary key? Find by ID of contact ID. Find by ID of contact ID. What it is giving? Optional object. optional object. If find by id is present, if find by id dot is present, return find by id dot get. If find by id dot is present, return find by id dot get. Here I want to retrieve all the records. For that I am using find all. Here I want to retrieve the record based on the primary key. So here I am calling find by id method to retrieve the record based on the primary key. Now what is this method? Delete contact by id. Delete contact by id. Are we going to delete the record or we are going to update the record as an inactive record? What is our delete functionality? Are we really deleting the record or we are going to implement a soft delete? We are going to implement soft delete. We are going to implement soft delete. How can we do that soft delete? How can we do that soft delete? Find contact by id. We got the object. If record is present, if record is present, then what I will do? Find by id dot get. If record is present, find by id dot get, which is going to give the contact object. Contact dot set active switch is equal to n. Active switch is equal to n. Then we are going to call contact repository dot save. That column value will be updated to n. After it is updated to n, then I will return true. Then I will return true. So here delete means we are not actually deleting the record. Delete means I am not going to delete the record actually. What I am doing, I am retrieving the record with the contact ID. I am setting the active switch as n. Then I am calling save method. Then what will happen? The record will be updated with the active switch as n. N means inactive. Whenever I am saving the record, what I will do? Contact dot set active switch as y. Whenever the record is inserting, by default I am setting the active switch as y. That means that record will be active record by default. Whenever you call the save method, that record will become active by default. Why I am setting always? It is used to save the record. It is used to retrieve all the records. It is used to retrieve the record based on the primary key. It is used to perform soft delete of the record. It is used to perform soft delete of the record. Are you clear? Are you clear with this? Can you practice up to now whatever I have explained? Tomorrow I will implement a REST controller with Swagger. Tomorrow we will implement REST controller with Swagger. Can you guys do this task now? Can you guys complete this before coming to tomorrow's session? Tomorrow I will implement the last two steps. Writing a REST controller for our project and creating a Swagger for our project to test it. So please practice. Don't ignore the practice. Don't ignore the practice. Thank you guys. I will continue in the tomorrow session. Tomorrow I will complete the backend part. Tomorrow I will complete the backend part. Thank you. Please explain the code you have written.